Hello, my name is Ebony Darkness Dementia Ravenway, and welcome to the video. I actually didn't plan on making this video. This past weekend, some friends and I had a very spooktacular staycation. We went to Dade City for Screamageddon, and then we went to Tampa for Howl-O-Scream at Busch Gardens. And I have some opinions that I would like to share with all of you. Now, like most of you, when they canceled Halloween Horror Nights at Universal, I was absolutely devastated. But then, like a light in the darkness, Busch Gardens Tampa Bay announced that Howl-O-Scream would be returning for its 20th year this year, but they would not have houses. Instead, they would have open-air scare zones. So naturally, I had to purchase a ticket. However, before you, my faithful viewer, decide to drop that much money on a Howl-O-Scream ticket this year, please allow me to give you the rundown of what it was like while we were there. Now, I do believe that the event runs Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And typically, I do go on Thursdays. It's typically cheaper and a lot slower. But this year, we did it on a Saturday. And I think that was my first mistake. However, we were promised a few things, and Busch Gardens didn't exactly deliver. I've broken this video down into 3 easily digestible parts. No pun intended. So let's begin with part number 1, the houses. So because there were no houses this year, it was all open air scare zones. I got very excited because I thought, great, this is awesome. There's no chance of COVID. There's going to be plenty of space for social distancing, and there's not going to be any problems. But then there were issues. They had, I think, 4 new scare zones this year. There was Lichen Landing, the Shortcut, the Junkyard, and I think the Escape was new this year. And then they had a few recurring Day of the Dead, Little Nightmares, and then there's like a toy box one. I don't remember off the top of my head. But anyways, so there were 4 new ones. The Escape and Lichen Landing were both just regular open-air scare zones where you walk through an area that is vaguely themed towards the scare zone, and actors are allowed to kind of move about freely and jump out at will. A couple of them have triggers, but most of them are just using either props, prop noisemakers that they have, or they're just yelling at you, or just using the element of surprise. And then there were the Junkyard and the Shortcut. Both of those we had to queue up for. And I will get to the queues in just a little while, but I will say that I liked the idea of these 2 scare zones in particular because they felt more like outside houses than scare zones. You were in a line, you pulsed in one group at a time, and you walked through a set path of props, lots of different house kind of props on either side, and the characters were hiding amongst the props. I really liked that. However, the Shortcut, as cool as it was, I really liked the aesthetic of it, was entirely too short. We waited in line for the Shortcut for at least 30 minutes for what was honestly like maybe a 30-second attraction. It was very short. However, the Junkyard was what I wanted the Shortcut to be. The Junkyard was prime. We only waited about maybe 10 minutes in line for the Junkyard, and it was a lot longer. There were a lot more scares, and there were a lot more scare actors in the Junkyard. And so I kind of wish that they would have done more of these outside house types. I wish that the Lichen Landing and the Escape were less generic scare zones where it's just one clump area of random scares, and instead just like a walkthrough of the outside scare zones, because it felt more like a house, and so you feel like you're getting more of what you're paying for. Another big problem that I had with these scare zones in general was I felt like they were very lackluster. either they were lacking in scares or they were lacking in scare actors. Scare actors were probably told to maintain a distance of 6 feet from each guest. And that's totally fine because in general, in past years, I don't recall the scare actors ever getting that close to you. So that's not that big of a deal. Especially in the Little Nightmare scare zone, a lot of the scare actors were just on the sides of the walkway. So they had doors like trick-or-treat doors, and they were all hiding in the bushes or they hiding. So I think that was pretty cool. I think they were able to get some good scares, but in something like Hell on Wheels, that scare zone, which is over by Iron Gwazi, was so big and spread out that, it didn't feel like they had put enough scare actors inside that scare zone to warrant a scare zone that big or that elaborate. But I will say one thing, the Busch scares are still my favorite thing. There's one area that isn't marked on the map as a scare zone, but they have scare actors hiding within the bushes, and they're dressed in like camo, and they're dressed in like fake bushes and foliage, and then they hide in the actual bushes and they pop out and scare you, and those are still my favorite scares, and they do have those, and so it's not a total loss. I do absolutely adore those Busch scares. Part 2, COVID precautions. Now, I don't know what Busch Gardens' maximum capacity is, and therefore I don't know what their COVID capacity is, but I find it very hard to believe that there was any sort of limit on this particular night. It felt like a full-on regular Howl-O-Scream Busch Gardens busy night. I know when I purchased my Howl-O-Scream tickets, I did also have to make a reservation, and when I was scanned in, they did scan both my ticket and my reservation for the night. But there were just so many people that it leaves me wondering, what is their maximum capacity during these COVID precautionary times? Because every single ride was at like a 90+ minute wait. And that was busier than the ride lines during the day, because we had gotten tickets for the daytime in Busch Gardens. So we were there from like noon to like 11 o'clock at night. We wanted to be able to like get all the rides in during the day and then focus more on the Halloween stuff at night, which really worked out for us because then we didn't end up having to wait those 90, 100-minute waits for all the roller coasters. But I feel like without the cushion of the extra attractions, i.e. the house lines, the ride lines were so insane. They were all at least 90 minutes, every single one of them, which I'm like, how is that possible if we are capping capacity? It does not make sense to me. So it was absolute, wall-to-wall people. There were lines everywhere, and only half of them were wearing masks. To the credit of Busch Gardens team members, they were attempting to tell people to wear masks. There were people in line at Tigress who pulled down their mask, and the team member told them to put it back up, and then they immediately pulled it back down, and security was called. But it's too hard in the dark with that many guests and not enough team members to control people from pulling their mask down, wearing it under their nose, wearing it under their chin, not wearing it at all. And, you would walk by a team member and they would say, "Excuse me, put your mask over your mouth and nose." And then as soon as you walk past that team member, they're pulling it back down. In line for the shortcut, there were lines on the ground for where we should have stayed, but on either side of us, there was just simply no social distancing whatsoever. Not waiting in line for the outside scare zones, not waiting in line for the Fiends show, for food, for anything. There were just simply no physical distancing and no masks. So, terrifying situation to be in when, you want to be safe. You want to have fun, but you want to be safe. And so it's very dangerous what had happened. Thinking back, Howl-O-Scream is popular, but Halloween Horror Nights is 10 times more popular. And as I was standing there next to somebody who wasn't wearing a mask standing directly next to me, I was thinking there's no way Halloween Horror Nights could have had a proper event this year, because they would just simply have to hire so many new employees to just monitor lines up and down. It just simply would not have been possible. Part 3, miscellaneous. These were the little notes that I had taken that didn't necessarily fit in the first 2 groups, but I wanted to mention them anyway because this is my honest review, and I do want to weigh the pros with the cons and let you guys decide at the end what you determine is your decision. I don't know. Because we did all of the rides during the day, and because there were no actual houses to wait in line for, we were finished with the event fairly early. We saw both of the shows, the Rolling Bones back in Pantopia, as well as the Fiend show, which was incredible, but we'll get there. And we did all of the scare zones, including the 2 that we had to wait in line for. And we also did 2 rides, 2 of our remaining roller coasters. And we were out of there by like 11 at the latest. I believe the event starts at 6:30, and we were out of there by 10:30. So we were only there for about 4 hours for Halloween, for Howl-O-Scream. That's something to take into consideration while you are walking through the scare zones. Really take your time, take in all of the details that there are, and really just take it all in, because this year the scare zones are not just placeholders to get you spooked in between houses. These scare zones are the houses. So if you do end up going, take your time, really enjoy whatever there is to see and expect and not expect, and just really take your time and take it all in. Otherwise, you're going to be blowing through all of those real quick. The Fiend show was amazing. I have been going to Howl-O-Scream for at least 5 years now, and every single year I say I'm going to see the Fiend show, and I never end up seeing it. I finally saw it this year. It was done outside because all of the theaters at Busch Gardens are closed right now due to obviously COVID. The show was amazing. It was so funny. It's like a pop culture show with a lot of different song numbers and dancing. If you've ever seen Bill and Ted's Halloween Adventure at Halloween Horror Nights, it's like that, but with like Frankenstein and Igor. But with Frankenstein and Igor and all of that. It's really funny. It's really cute, and it's I definitely recommend checking it out. They have bleachers that are socially distanced and markings on the bleachers so you know where to sit and where not to sit. So I highly suggest it. And also, there's a bunch of really cool snack places along the way to the show, so you can grab a bite to eat, sit down, relax for 25 minutes, and watch the Fiend show. Highly recommend it. And finally, let's talk pricing. I've read some comments online from people that said they paid $70 to go to Busch Gardens Howl-O-Scream. I don't know what the price is at this time. I know that it's different pricing which day you go and how close to Halloween it gets. I personally purchased a Saturday ticket for $35, but this was back in, I think, August I bought the tickets. And so, you get advanced pricing. It's a little bit cheaper. I know that if you are a day guest, you can upgrade your pass for $35 for Howl-O-Scream. And if I'm being completely honest, that is about the amount that feels appropriate for this event this year. Because there are no houses, and because it is just scare zones, and because it has been so busy that you have to wait in line, I find $35 for this experience to be perfect. You get a little bit of the spooky factor, you get to ride the rides at night, and that's about it. I would say if you are paying anything more than $35 to $40 for this event, it is absolutely not worth it. And I just don't recommend you go and waste that kind of money, because it is limited hours. It is only, I think it's only until midnight this year, because usually they'll go till like 1 or 2 in the morning, but I think all nights this year are only until midnight. So you can go in as a as a Howl-O-Scream guest, I believe at 5, and you have to leave by midnight, which I think is 7 hours. You can easily get your scare zones done in 2 hours tops, just because they're spread out around the park. And then the most you're going to be doing is waiting in line for the rides and maybe waiting to see the shows. So yeah, that was my honest opinion of Busch Gardens Howl-O-Scream this year. We also did Screamageddon, which is about 20 minutes north of Tampa, in Dade City. They have 5 houses and zombie paintball, which is extra money, which we did not do. I liked Screamageddon a lot more than Howl-O-Scream, but that's because they had actual houses and their characters were like in your face. But it was another situation of no social distancing and no masks, which was a little irritating to me, but we still had a really awesome time. If you are going to do a Halloween event and you have about $40 to spare, I highly suggest going to Screamageddon instead. Because they do have the houses. Man, are they spooky. They have a 3D clown house, which are my favorite kind of houses. And then they have one where you're literally in the woods. Like it's completely dark, you're in the woods, and there's characters with chainsaws. It is absolutely amazing, absolutely terrifying. Screamageddon was so much better than Howl-O-Scream. So like I said, if you are picking, one or the other, go Screamageddon. It is in the middle of nowhere in Dade City. And scream to your heart's content. It was a really great scare haunt attraction, and I highly recommend Screamageddon. Thank you guys, as always, so much for watching. If you guys like this video, let me know in the comments down below. I would be happy to do more of these sort of honest reviews on my channel of like theme parks and things in the area that I do go and check out from time to time. This is kind of like a fun video for me to make. I wrote some notes, I gathered my thoughts, I did a million takes that I'm now going to edit out, and you guys will see the seamless edited video that you just witnessed. Anyway, thank you guys like always for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.